a oh jeez. Um,
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining the second interview we have for today for day two. Here we have Jonas, aka Jiggy, with us, the esports coordinator here at Roehampton University. How are you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. So, first off, I think we should just get started with, how did the whole idea or the concept of the esports program here at Roehampton come into play?
Yeah, so it was. I feel like there's a misconception of me starting the whole thing. I was sort of very much just in the right place at the right time. I was working at the student union and was about to sort of. I told them I'm gonna quit my job. I told them it's like 3-4 months in advance. I'll be quitting and I'll find another job. I felt like I've been in Northampton's for what was it, like almost 6-7 years by then. I felt like I need to find another place to work in. 2 weeks before I finish my job, James Ayers, who's the head of sports, comes to speak to Corella, who's in charge of the societies, and he's like, "Yeah, universities has introduced esports scholarships, and they're doing this amazing thing. Do you know anything about esports?" Because like he was
Mm.
responsible for running it, and he didn't really know anything about it. And Corella was like, "I have no idea about esports, but Jonas knows. We can just get him into a meeting and see what's going to happen." And then I joined another meeting, and then another meeting, and they asked me to stay like for a month and a couple more months, and that's how sort of I joined. But it was all started essentially. It was brainchild of Liam Hurley, who's head of strategic partnership and public relations, not PR, something else. Anyway, one of the important people at university. So he went to a trip in US. He saw how well the esports is doing there in universities, and then he thought, you know what, let's bring it to UK. And I was essentially just at the right time, at the right place to be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially with how it was doing at the beginning,
Mm.
as you were saying, even before I came, with just a single room with, you know, 10 PCs with
Mm.
just standard HP keyboards, and just how how would you say your progress has gone so far of just going from that to, now being affiliated with Zowie and all of that?
Yeah, I think we did things very well, and I'm happy. I'm really proud of the progress we did as a program and what we've achieved so far. Obviously, there's a lot of hurdles we had to go through in two ways. Trying to do something brand new that no other UK university has done is problematic because you're doing new things at a university, and all universities are very not very flexible, and they're slow on adapting and importing new things and trying out new things and things like that. So there's a lot of sort of bureaucracy that tends to slow things down. And then like we didn't really have any rule books or guidebooks to follow or anything like that because no one has done something like that in UK. And if you look at what other colleges and universities have done in US, it's tricky because like they obviously everything's a lot more commercialized in there. Like they have similar, like some universities and colleges in US have very similar spaces to ours, but they charge like $5 an hour or something like that. Like imagine us charging our students in the esports arena. Like we have the esports society membership, which is just like £20 a year, and it's complete, it's nothing compared to paying $5 an hour. So trying to find all of navigating all of those hurdles and things like that was a bit of a challenge. But we managed to go from, as you mentioned, like one room with 13 PCs, even though we had 20 PCs in storage, but like we only had room space for 13 of them, so we only had 13 out. Started HP keyboards, 60 hertz monitors, then going with Zowie and expanding into second space, and now we're writing a business case to double the space that we have and like set up a proper broadcasting
Mm.
studio with proper green screens and teleprompters and cameras and things like that. So I mean it's really exciting to see what we have achieved so far, but it's nothing that we were looking to achieve. Just like for us, at least my thinking throughout wasn't just about, oh, like let's set up an esports society and let's do what
Mm.
other esports societies are doing. The goal was always to let's set up a very grassroots like
Mm.
esports organization and try doing it that way. Just try to help people with go into pro or semi-pro teams. And
Mm.
like the focus has changed now from getting players to join the semi-pro teams to more sort of developing industry professionals, or it might be casters, managers, analysts, and things like that. So that's sort of the next step, next goal. But yeah, what we've done so far, I'm really happy with.
I mean, yeah, and it's certainly kind of implemented esports or that a lot more in just university life.
Yeah.
Because were you? I mean, the esports site being the biggest society on campus and being one of the newest, were you expecting near the amount of numbers that you have now?
No, I mean, yes and no, but no. We didn't expect it to become the largest society instantly because we started the society in September. So it's essentially went from not being a society to us finding three pretty much random people to start a society. Because like the president Johannes, who started the esports society last year, he wasn't even playing any esports games. Like he was just in the right time at the right place, and we said like, hey, we need to set up a society. Can you be the president? Can you get the signatures? And going from that to the largest society on campus in 3 months, it's amazing, and we're really happy with it. But at the same time, like we're not really like we're society, but we're not comparing ourselves. At least I'm not comparing our Hampton Esports Society to other societies because no other society, has their own rooms, their own staff member looking after it, and things like that. So, in the sake of promotion and advertising, yes, we say we're the biggest society in a sense of competing with other societies on campus. We don't promote that number or anything like that.
That's fair enough, especially if you want to look at it from that point of view, because a lot more space has been provided.
Yeah.
But for like the future and how you want to build this, if you had the perfect landscape, all of the right paths created for you, how would you want this to go ideally in like for the future of this program?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we'd have students who are developing more projects like Badass University All Stars, more shoutcasters, more streamers. It's tricky because like we have the facilities, we have the scholarships, but because our university demographic is very different to a lot of other university demographics, like Warwick, has probably 3 times as many students as we have. And then our university, if I'm not mistaken, like 75% or 76% of our students are women students. So it's our university isn't the natural university for people who are into esports. So it's a bit trickier for us to find the talent and find the people who always want to be involved. But like if we can reach the point where it all functions as a mini esports org with partners, and if it reaches the point where we can sort of sustain ourselves independently outside of university funding, that would be amazing, because that would free us up to do a lot more cool stuff, and it would help us circumvent a lot of bureaucracy from university, I guess. And it's just nice to be able to offer a space like that to students. So if in ideal world, like we'd move into a space that has windows, for example, especially during the hot summer months. It's nice to have windows and to have fresh air in there. And then having new PCs, buying new PCs, buying a proper green screen, proper cameras. Not doing, because like a lot of the things I'm sure you noticed so far is a lot of it is DIY, just to make sure that we can stretch our budget and do as many things as possible. But yeah, just keep on trucking and keep on going and improving slowly but surely with the things that we can. Yeah.
I mean, with the current programs that are running, especially with the society, like what kind of events? If not backlash, but if nothing was holding you back, like the COVID scenario and all of that, with the current mindset, what kind of events would you like want to be having if you could just do anything?
Yeah, I mean the greatest example would be Badass finals and semifinals and group and the big tournaments, big LAN events and things like that. Because from the day one, as soon as we sort of expanded the space into 2 rooms, we had lots of options. Like, do we just knock down the middle wall completely and have one massive room? Do we just make it completely separate rooms? So
Thank
the
Christ
reason
you
why
didn't.
no, right? That was a very good call. I can't imagine just having one big space. Yeah, the whole idea was to have two rooms where you can, because we have accommodation on campus, we have catering on campus, we have 2 separate rooms that you can sort of close the doors and make it into 2 separate esports arenas. The whole idea was to be able to host actual events and big events, not necessarily massive events, but like we can have both teams competing in red side and blue side,
Mm.
and then the university has the 90-seat cinema or something like that, and you can host events there for the the viewing party of it, or you can go into the Union Bar. But I mean, these were the plans, and these were sort of a big step for us to do when it comes to income generation as well.
Mm.
I mean, obviously, COVID happened, and none of that worked. But we were sort of developing it towards the area of, hey, we want to, over the summer when none of the students are using the esports space, we want to host boot camps for teams and do summer schools of students from US and things like that. So like just hosting a variety of events and then tapping it into, let's say, new events, and instead of just doing finals in Red Bull Gaming Sphere or whatever, do semifinals for teams who can come to Roehampton, do the semifinals there, just to make it a bit more of a occasion, because it's a great experience for students to go and do LAN events, because it's a completely different environment to playing online, but only 2 teams per game can really experience that. And like if you can do semifinals in Roehampton Esports Arena, I'm sure it would be amazing for those students.
Oh yeah.
It would be a bit problematic if we had to get students from Edinburgh, but everything's possible. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and that was the thing we were talking about, the possibilities of what could happen.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to just, that's why, for example, with this program, in any given finals, there can be up to 10 universities.
Yeah.
Minimum of 5. So it's all, that's why, because that the Northern NSC, you have two universities per finals, and it's very much usually the same you'll have the same university make a multiple showing at every finals.
Yeah. And it's it's self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if you have the same university coming to lands every single splits for like 2 years or 3 years, I mean the students will be changing, but like if you make your first split on stage in a LAN in your year 1, by year 3, going into LAN is going to be nothing new for you. But then you're competing against a team who's brand new at a LAN event, and they're all nervous and falling apart just from stress and from the crowd. Then you're just naturally at an extra advantage.
Well, I wonder where that's coming from.
Yeah.
I wonder who would choke at the finals.
No. Can you imagine?
I mean, it's all well and good, because that is the point. I mean, going off like what you're saying about stress and anxiety and what happened with our league team, like they were an amazing team, but it came down to the day.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. I mean, the quicker you can get a LAN under your belt, the quicker you can get that pressure of an audience just done and dusted. It will be better in the long term, because a lot of most teams choke or have some kind of anxiety or stress when it comes to a stage, because all of a sudden you're not just in your room, you're not just with your friends. It is quite a lot of other people watching to see how you perform.
Yeah, it's the I feel like the esports arena can act as a small stepping stone from just playing at home into playing with your 5 teammates in a room when you're next to each other. Because like if you're playing alone and you have a clutch moment and you fail, it's stressful, but you're in your own room, you're fine. But if you have a clutch situation and you fail, and everyone's in the same room, and you look around, everyone's just like giving you the angry looks, it adds a little stress level. But it's it's the good kind of stress that you'll learn from, and you'll know how to handle your emotions, because like you don't want to experience that seeing your teammates looking at you angrily at a LAN event for the first time.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, that kind of adds to it. It's the emotion of it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even with like what like you've kind of spearheaded here, is that even if a LAN were to happen, it's I guess you could kind of call it's like a half LAN, I guess, because although you are playing on a local area network with 0 ping, which almost any team can tell you is a different game completely in almost any game, and you've got that experience alongside having them right next door, so you've still got the audience, but they're just not there. They'd be very close, but just not in the same room. The team's close, but not in the same room.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you half of it without the stress.
Yeah, technically we could move the whole esports arena for for the weekend to what's called the Monty Hall, where the Bob happens and all the other big events happen. And you can actually have both teams and the full crowd in there. Everything's possible. I just imagine like having a full weekend of, even if you're doing LAN event in the esports arena and all the spectators are staying on campus or local Airbnbs around the area, and then everyone's in the Union Bar. Like, it just sounds like an amazing weekend.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, because like most of the LAN events for NSC and NEAL usually are sort of, at least all the ones that I've attended, they felt very rushed in a sense of like, oh, you just play your game and you sort of bugger off because the next game has to go on stage and things like that. But having a full weekend for league tournament or Rainbow Six tournament would be tons of fun.
Because it's that whole thing, and of although both are well and good, you've still got a clash of so many different games, and there's gonna be some kind of beef between a league player and like another game, like a league and an Overwatch player.
Yeah.
Like, and it's but the thing is, if it's all one kind of esport, one kind of game at an event, you've got that just automatic chemistry between players, between observers, and it's starting to like not bond over, but just have like an established connection over. And having like a weekend like that would just be an incredible thing for a student to experience.
It's just experience in itself, but then also imagine like if you do the All-Stars event in one place and you get the best people from all different regions, then like a lot of the people in All-Stars teams will hopefully be the level of going and starting a team and competing in UCAN Division 2 and things like that. So it's a good networking opportunity to find new teammates, find coaches, find analysts, and like if you're shoutcaster, it's a good opportunity to go and speak to teams and get some opportunities to shoutcast their games.
And because that's what happened with London with their was it their Epic LAN run?
I think so.
Yeah, because they went through a different approach of we'll stream all of our games.
Yeah.
And then on the Epic LAN channel was everything but. So it's something different, but it's certainly something that it's nice to be done, because you're not part of a massive brand that just does events. Because if you're sought out by a team individually to do your own kind of thing, then it's more personal in that sense, I guess.
Absolutely.
And if I forgot what road I was going down at that point. I kind of blanked. But yeah, it's certainly something. And with the current program we have now, would you like there to be, like, for example, like other universities have like an esports course like connected to the program, or would you be against that?
Absolutely. Like I feel like my thinking was always that our Roehampton esports program can't grow if other universities don't grow at the same time. That's why like we're fairly open about helping other esports societies, with setting up their societies in a better way, or helping with advice and things like that. So and like I genuinely believe that in 5 years, I mean, I said that 2 years ago, so I guess in 3 years most universities should have some sort of esports arena on campus. I mean, I'm sure COVID and money situation for university has turned that around completely. But even with COVID situation, I know there's quite a few universities who are looking into developing their esports arenas and esports programs. And if we can host events together, then it's absolutely fine. It's not just fine, it's great, and that's what exactly what we want to do. We wanted to offer this summer. It was the as I mentioned, like it was the plans of getting opening up the space for teams to do boot camps, and the initial plan was to offer it to a variety of London-based esports societies, to say like come in and have a 2-day boot camp or something like that, just as as a test to see how the space works before we open it up to commercial clients. But sharing a space like that with no costs is it's something we wanted to do, because it's just building relationships, building friendships, and getting to do those events together. Because like doing an event is great if we want to do it ourselves, but if we can get involved, a few other London-based societies, it's just so much better. Also, in a long term, if you, let's say, have a really strong alliance of London esports societies that are specifically London societies that do a lot of events together, work together, and have sort of esports arenas together. Not together, but they have their own esports arenas, but they all work on social media or events. And then you approach a massive partner. Let's say, even take the same example of Zawi. So instead of going and saying like, "Hey, we have this amazing program and we have 10,000 students at Roehampton," you go like, "Hey, we have this amazing London Esports Alliance, and we have 150,000 students all together. Do you want to partner with all of us and give each of us, X, Y, and Z?" And then it just makes finding partners and sponsors for events just so much easier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something that I was going to touch upon, especially when this whole thing started, and I know it wasn't originally your idea, but it's been quite a big part built on that. Like, obviously, you taking over a large proportion of it and spearheading the division to something different. When you originally were given the opportunity to start spearheading it more yourself, I don't know, were you worried about the program? Because this was 2 years ago when this started. Yeah. And I don't know, were you worried? Because especially in the UK, it's not seen as... It's more not as taboo anymore. But were you afraid that might be holding it back a little bit?
Yeah, there was. I mean, even when we launched, there were some news articles saying, like, I think was it the Times? They did 2 articles at a very close times to each other. Like one of them was very positive about the esports scholarships and how esports players can get new opportunities, and the other one was like, oh, Roehampton University is poaching students by offering them esports scholarships. It's just like. And like even though in the end it was very positive and went the positive way, just we knew that there's going to be a lot of people online saying things like, oh, like esports shouldn't really have any scholarships and we're just playing games. Like even during the first university meetings, trying to pitch the idea and doing the business cases for expansions and everything like that, a lot of it wasn't just proving that the program is viable or it can we need to expand it because of all the positive impacts it has on students. It was just trying to explain to academic and faculty staff members what is esports and why do we need it and how does it work and things like that. So it was an interesting experience, a learning experience. Like I was able to answer all of the like what exactly is esports and why do we need like our students just going to be playing more games instead of actually going to lectures, and are they going to be playing in the arena until 3 a.m., which used to happen, but it doesn't happen anymore thanks to COVID. I really want those times to come back. Like whenever I come back from a BOP taking photos or an event or something like that, and there's like 2-3 people in the esports arena at 2 a.m. It's just like, what are you doing? It's just like, oh, grinding. Solo queue season is about to end. Just like, good for you. Just yeah, go to sleep now.
I mean, that was one of the great things about, especially when before COVID happened. I remember I feel so bad. I never knew it was happening, but I've heard from other people. But like after a night of BOP, which is our uni bar turns into like a mini club for a night every Friday night. And it was everyone would go there, and then afterwards everyone would just like, we play in League or we play in Siege, yeah? And then everyone would just go back and just have a whale of a time. And it's that sense of just, it's not only just the scholarship program or anything else, it is just building like a separate community. And for Roehampton being, I'd say a fairly small university, but just having that as like a little extra bit, especially with so many people being off campus.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. It's just 2 things. Like a lot of students are living off campus, so the space is great for students who live off campus, especially like in between lectures and things like that. But because we're the only campus-based university in London, like we already have a really strong community. But I feel like that esports arena just helps bring out the community even more. Like when initially we had chats with a lot of different staff members, a lot of them were like, "Oh, it's going to be great, great way to engage those students who don't really speak to each other and are the typical sort of gamer and stays at home." And it's just like, well, yes, absolutely, we'll 100% engage those students. But like when you think of your a high end sort of your high end university esports player, like they're usually not the type of students who's just going to be sitting at home playing games all the day, because like if you want to be a successful esports player, like you have to be able to communicate properly. You usually play with at least a couple of people, or like five people as a team. But having that space as a social space is well, it was and it still is one of the key ingredients. Like, and it's like it worked out surprisingly well. We didn't have any broken keyboards, massively broken keyboards, just a key here and key there, which happens, but like the esports space just stayed in a great condition, and like I'm just really happy can't wait to go back into having it open for more than 9 hours a day.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was a struggle when it opened back up.
Yeah.
Because you could have maximum 10 people in the arena in between two rooms. And then it kind of got to the point where everyone was like,
Yeah.
That was the problem we had as the team at the end of last year, was that some people went, well, I'm not coming in because of COVID. And then some people leaving, and then you're sitting here like, what am I meant to do?
Yeah, exactly. It's I mean it's been a struggle, but compared to other departments at university, it's we're doing really well, I believe, with like all the social events and things like that, and we're launching a lot more events. Hopefully starting this week. So now we have, I think Thursdays we have CS:GO, Fridays we have League, Saturdays we have Among Us, Sundays we have Fall Guys, Monday Among Us again, or something like that. So we're trying to do a lot of social events, and it's something that I really want. Like when it comes to the society itself, that's one of the things that I really want to develop more, is more student-led events and things like that, because there's one thing that I really haven't worked out on how to do it, as because there's me and there's sort of Pedro, the people who get paid to look after the esports arena. It's really hard to get some other society members to engage with the society, because it always sort of, people just default to like, oh, Jonas or Pedro we'll sort it out, we'll do it. And there's it would be great to have more, like when you look at other universities and other societies, like the passion and the drive. I feel like we can improve that at Roehampton, but I'm sure, like, because we're such a new program, like it's technically just a second year, and if you compare the start of last year to start of this year, it's a massive improvement, and I just can't wait for the year after that to start as well. 'Cause with each year, we're learning new things, we're doing things better, getting the teams, getting signups. It's just getting better within each year. But the joy of having a university team is you never know who you're gonna be, who your player is gonna be. You never know if the same people are gonna be competing in September, and are they gonna be still in the team by October? Because when the crunch time happens and you have to work on essays, maybe competing with your uni team might not be your main priority if you're only doing it socially. Like if you want to become a semi-pro player, then obviously you'll find the time and you'll manage your time properly. But if you're playing a game, Siege or whatever, just for fun, and you have to choose between going to practice and trying to learn new strats of where all the shelves in Rainbow Six map are placed, where you can put cameras, and then you can do an essay. A lot of people are gonna go and choose the essay, aren't they? So yeah, joys of working at university sports, I guess.
I mean, that's something what you're saying with events is something that a lot of people are kind of catching on to now. And with COVID coming into it, a lot of people and a lot of societies, a lot of organizations are kind of adapting to this kind of, I don't know, this little time span of having to go online and just being in that position where you kind of have to choose. You can choose either let's just wait. Let's just wait till everything can open back up, or you can keep engagement, keep interest, and just even if it's small nights, even if it's a few people one night, a few people the next, it's still keeping up with, just that interest, keep people involved, because it's also a time where everyone's stuck inside. Exactly. And if you can get that social interaction, it's the little things.
Yeah. definitely. And whenever you do new events, and because I know when the whole COVID situation started and a lot of societies had to move to online stuff,
Mm.
they did it once or twice, and there weren't many people attending it, and they're like,
Mm.
okay, this isn't working, we're not going to do it. But like, of course it wasn't working, because you just started doing it. Like,
Mm.
if you keep on doing it persistently, people would get used to it, and they'll start attending your events more and more. So let's just hope we can keep doing that with esports. But yeah, when I just really hope that we can develop a program, to support students and get everyone engaged in playing games, from uh, to help them in January, February, the blue blue months of the year, essentially,
Mm.
when you can't go outside because it's miserable, and you actually can't go outside because of lockdowns. Let's just hope we can have a strong program for our students to keep developing them, and get them playing together. It like the what's it called? The student union is doing a campaign this month called All Right Mate.
Mm.
It's sort of focused towards mental health and checking up on your friends and things like that. And it's just like, it's so much easier to do that if you can go and play some games together,
Mm.
instead of like I speak a lot with my friends from back home, and like the only reason why we sort of speak together so much is because of games. And you're not like, what are the chances of you and your mates just jumping on a call and talking about life? It's just like, it's so much easier to talk
Mm.
about life when you're in those like 10 seconds in between siege matches,
Mm.
and things like that, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, it is those little things. It's that distraction. It's that getaway, and that's, I guess, what this kind of program's provided for a lot of people.
Mm.
And what I kind of wanted to go into a little bit is, especially we talked about earlier about some of the one of not the hardships, but some of the struggles you kind of knew were going to happen.
Mm.
But I don't know, what kind of you think would you say would be your biggest challenge trying to lead this program, like both that you did expect or that you didn't expect?
The biggest challenges I was expecting was just sort of not having a lot of support from academic staff or university faculty, which really wasn't the case, because the support was overwhelmingly positive. When you look at sort of, I always keep the same comparison, is universities like, let's say, Warwick University. They have a really strong esports society that's
Mm.
been going for many years, and they have a lot of members. I think like they have more league teams than we have teams in general, probably. Um, they've been doing great, but like whenever we want to host an event, it's problematic, because we have to book a room, try to sort out IT,
Mm.
security, and things like that. So we have amazing society with lots of students, and we don't have any support from faculty. And we have the opposite. We have amazing support from faculty, but like we didn't have any esports students. Like, because when the program started, we only had gaming society, and the gaming society was mainly focused on sort of tabletop games, Super Smash,
Mm.
and D&D. So trying to build a successful esports society without having any esports players is rather tricky. But now with each year, like, we get more and more scholars, and we actually get more and more people just who don't who don't apply for the scholarship, but they come to Roehampton because of the esports program, because they know they love esports. They might not be great at the game, your typical sort of gold, silver players in Siege, but if they join Siege team as a gold player in year one, by year three, I'm sure we can make them into diamonds, with the equipment and facilities that we have, and the support that we can get for those students. Another thing that I wasn't expecting to struggle so much is, let's say, finding coaches.
Mm.
There's no accreditation system in UK esports when it comes to coaching. If let's say if you're
Mm.
setting up a football club and you want to find a football coach, like, okay, I have this budget, I can afford myself a level 2 football coach or something
Mm.
like that. If you're esports, if you're looking for a coach for esports, you can either go for ex semi-professionals, which either A, can be very expensive, or B, can actually be horrible coaches, because if you were an amazing player, that does not mean you're going to be an
Mm.
amazing coach. Or you just have to follow and ask people around and see if someone has any recommendations. But then, because it's once again, you don't have any accreditations, just relying on people's word of mouth is sometimes tricky. So yeah, I guess the expected hurdle that didn't really happen was support from faculty, because everyone was really really good and really great, especially like the IT department. um yeah, finding coaches was a hurdle I was not really expecting to struggle so much with, because and as well, like some of the teams, the coaches we had last year, you feel like everything's going great, but then some people are really not happy with the coach, but other people are happy with the coach. So it's finding the right balance, and then sorting out the making sure the team is actually making progress and reaching their desired goals. So like the league team, even though the final was a great photo opportunity at best, not much else really. It was a great result for us having a coach and going from not having a team straight to finals. Let's hope we can do the same thing with a few of our teams this year, because that's the plan, to have strong and competitive teams as as one of the main areas, and then have a really strong society at the background to help develop those sort of transferable skills. Because like my ideal uh, esports program in, let's say, a year or in 2 years would be, you have great players who are playing, and all of them playing sort of from the esports arena. All of them have webcams set up, and you have the proper high production setups of shoutcasters and player webcams and replays and everything like that. It's like we're getting there, but everything is still very DIY, because I mean, we can't have two people in the shoutcasting room at the moment because of COVID regulations, so that's sort of not great. But then at the same time, getting proper mixers and cameras that you could use, not just webcams and things like that, is rather pricey. So we're trying to take it step by step. So hopefully the next target is going to be expanding the esports arena 3.0, I guess, is going to be, so upgrading the streaming room, content creation room even more, and then getting a new space with even more PCs, because hopefully if we can have at least extra 10 PCs, that would be great. Because at the moment we have 20 scholarship recipients and we have 20 PCs, and you can't realistically have next year 30 scholarship recipients and 20 PCs. So like if they can't all play at the same time, like most likely they wouldn't be playing at the same time, but you still need to think of all the other students on campus. Because one really positive thing from the program was, like when we were starting up, we were focusing on okay, these scholarship recipients are going to come, we're going to have an amazing experience, we're going to learn new skills, and once they graduate, they're going to find jobs in esports. But then the feedback from just second and third year students was also very positive, because they get to experience everything as well. Like yes, they don't get a scholarship, but they literally can get absolutely everything else from the program. It includes coaches, events, training facilities, and the esports arena itself. So
yeah, I mean, it all had to kind of start. You can't just go straight for the wall. You kind of have to build your way up, and that's kind of the stages that I guess you are in right now.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I feel like, and I don't know if it might be, I might be completely wrong on this, but I always felt like if you're teaching someone how to, let's say, learn how to live stream, and if you drop someone into, like, if we could have amazing facilities that are world-class facilities that you'll see in ESL finals straight away, that would be amazing, because students can just learn to do that. But I feel like if you learn everything from doing very DIY stream labs or just standard OBS streams, and then you move on to vMix and then professional gear, hardware, and things like that, you'll do much better in your professional career when things go wrong, instead of just always using the best equipment possible. Because like if shit hits the fan, then what are you gonna do? You won't be able to DIY your solution out of it. And as I mentioned, everything's currently very DIY in around.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you can be given the best facilities, even if you're just like a standalone streamer. You can be given the best equipment, the best like visible stream. But at the end of the day, if you don't have what it takes, and you don't grow your audience, or if you don't like want to build it, because I guess that's the beauty of starting from nothing.
Yeah.
You got to work for what you want at the very top rather than just be gifted it. Because you know, when you're at the top, when you have something that looks nice, when you have the equipment, you do appreciate it a hell of a lot more, and you know what you're doing with it.
Yeah, like with the streamer example, like if you have an amazing setup and you spend £2,000 on a great DSLR just to make sure it looks much better than a webcam, but then you have viewers who get 10,000 or 20,000 viewers who have crappy microphone and they don't even have a webcam. It's like you start to realize like it's not about the equipment, isn't it? It's about the actual content. And if we can start producing really amazing like weekly content, then yeah, it would be great.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And like I said, even though everything may seem like DIY, especially in the arena and everything at the moment, it is giving you, because how many times did you switch around that room?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like you've kind of changed it to what you want it to be, and how you kind of envisioned it, and things go wrong in every way. Like you could have the most perfect plan, something's still gonna go wrong at some point. Yeah. And
like whenever the students are doing any streams, and then sort of let's say the good example would be Warzone tournament that we did a month ago or something like that. When because I wasn't there, and the students when it started, like the sound quality was horrible. Like it took them like 20 minutes to fix it, but like they fixed it, and now they know how to fix it if that happens again. So it's it's the little learning things. Ideally, it wouldn't happen live on stream. But if we can get those learning hiccups and things like that early on in the process, then I'm sure it'll be better for all students. Because like if you're going into esports production, there's never going to be a time where everything goes well. Like something's going to happen, and if you're used to things going wrong, and like you always have at least 2-3 backups at the back of your mind, and you don't go like, oh, this is the amazing camera, we're using it's going to work perfectly the whole time. If you go like, oh, this is amazing camera, it's likely it's going to go wrong. Here's a webcam backup. And if that doesn't work, here's my phone connected to OBS. We can just use that. Then I feel like, it's just going to help students of sort of finding a full-time job once they graduate.
And again, that's the beauty of this program. It helps students go from not really knowing much, not really doing anything with it, and just kind of not paving the way for them, but showing them the goal, and if they need help along the way, then that's what it's for.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just the idea is very much of getting the talent out there and helping people reach their goals. Because we're trying to do to all the scholarship recipients. The first question we ask is like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Which is my favorite question to ask of all adults, because everyone just gets like, oh, I have no idea. Because like if you ask a question of like, what are you studying, and like, what do you want to do when you grow up, they're very different questions. And if someone says like, oh, I just want to be a league player, and she's like, okay, cool, we'll just focus you on league teams and that's it. But like if someone says like, oh, I don't know, like I might want to try, I don't know, I want to go into esports, but I'm not sure what to do. Just like, okay, cool, we'll get you to do stream production, we'll get you to try and manage a team and things like that. Like these are like, I'll admit, like a lot of these things that I'm talking about are just ideas and things we want to do. Like we weren't successful at a lot of them, and we're learning from the mistakes we do. But I think still the progress we had so far is really good, and we'll see in a year, I guess, by the time you lot are graduating, the first wave of scholarship students. We'll see if the program is successful and how many of you can land jobs in esports, or at least say that the program works and I enjoyed my time at university.
Yeah, and it kind of gives you that reassurance, I guess, of even though like you didn't expect anything of it, it's still giving you those 3 years worth of experience.
Yeah.
Even if you dabble in stream production, casting, playing, managing a team, coaching, being an analyst, there are so many different areas in esports that a lot of people don't really think about or don't think much of. Yeah. And then again, that's what this week's for, and for us. I mean, we're getting people from all different types of backgrounds in esports, so you learn a little bit more about it, because an analyst doesn't just look at numbers, or a coach doesn't just tell you how to play or do strategies. Like, there's so much more that goes into it.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess this program trying to, I guess what you're trying to do is like prepare them for that.
Yeah, exactly. And once they graduate, they'll have passion for esports, and they'll have experience 3 years, doing esports at university level. But they'll also have their, full-time degree that they can adapt. And if they're unsuccessful, or they decide like, you know what, I don't want to do esports as a career, then they still have their digital media, marketing, business management courses that they can just adapt into a completely different industries. And esports has a lot of transferable skills, which is the buzzword of any university essentially. Transferable skills and student retention, probably the most said words at any university meeting. If as long as the esports program helps on those things and helps us improve student experience in that, then it's a success in my eyes.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you would like to mention or talk about?
I think we covered most of it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just really happy and excited to see where the Badass University All Stars is gonna go, and how it's developing. It's already amazing. Just the idea of these streams, I feel like is absolutely brilliant, and showing people different aspects of the esports industry, because a lot of people, maybe not students who particularly are already interested in esports, but when I speak to a lot of parents during open days, at least like previous open days when we still have open days in person, I would spend like, if I was speaking to a student and a parent for like 10 minutes, 3 minutes I'd speak to the student, say like amazing facilities, the esports program is cool, like the team, the monitors and everything. And then the 7 minutes, trying to convince parents that, their kid isn't throwing their life away by being interested in esports, like they can have a career. And it's not just, being a professional player or being a streamer. There's just so much more in that you can do in esports. Even things like you can be an esports lawyer. Like more and more teams, like big teams, need lawyers who are specifically focused around esports. Like a good example would be Julia, who graduated last year, I believe. She continued her studies, and now she's a proper full-grown lawyer. And she's looking to work in the esports field. And like, you'd never assume, like when you're thinking of initially when you think about esports, you think like, okay, players, coaches, maybe shoutcasters and streamers, but then like there's just so much more there's to do in esports. And like, if you're gonna have an esports career in let's say Siege, when you think about all the Siege players, who do you think has the longest career? Like, how long is their career?
I'd say it's the same with a lot of things. It's like, I'd say you have around like, I'd say you have maybe like a 5, maybe 6 year career, but you'd have your prime, and that's what you need to think about. Whereas with a lot of games, you kind of have, oh, I used to be a pro, I can definitely be a coach, or I can definitely be a caster. Well, I've played the game professionally, and then you look further into it, and it happened a few years ago in Siege, where you had a professional player who retired, who then went on to try and be a caster, and was not trying to be like that, but it just wasn't enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
And that's something which you can't just be like, yeah, if I play at the highest level, I can just do everything else. And that's again what this week's for. I mean, commentating a lot more goes into it. You need to, again, the research behind it, watching every game so you know what happens, so you have points to talk about, to have that knowledge of the game. And if you want to be a coach, you're not just telling them like, how to play the strats. Are you looking after your players? Are you making sure they're there? And there's so much more that goes into it. And again, if you're a player, just being like, yeah, I'm just going to sit down and play our games. And I think last year with the team we had, they were like, yeah, when's the game start? I was like, game start, 7, 8, get here for like, 3? So that we can go over strategies, scrims, VODs, comms, address issues. And that's where a lot of, extra parts come into play.
Yeah.
Because you can't just say, oh, our player just plays. or a coach just coaches. An analyst only looks at numbers. A caster only turns up to talk over the game. And like, for example, the producer just clicks like next scene.
Yeah.
And there's so much. Every job in esports has so many underlying just responsibilities and things you do, and it's not just you turn up on the day and you play or you produce or you do whatever you need to do. There is just, for sometimes it's a lot of man hours that need to go into it.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope we can accomplish this week, is especially with people watching, it's to give you guys that insight. Especially, that's why I wanted to interview you as well, because it's, although not in the deep pro scene, it's that grassroots. It's showing it's showing students the way forwards, and it's telling them like, nah, it's not just this, and it's not just saying this is what you need to do. Go on. It's how can we help you with that, so you're not going in blind.
Yeah, and I feel like that the whole grassroots thing is really important, because without having a really strong grassroots scene, you won't be able to have a really strong pro scene, in my opinion. When it comes to also sort of players and shoutcasters, you might have been able to go sort of from being a pro player to a shoutcaster or colorcaster or play-by-play caster, especially like play-by-play caster, let's say 5-7 years ago, in the times when all the 10 years ago, let's say, when all the professional players were still paid in mouse mats and mouse and keyboards and things like that,
Yeah.
But right now, like, pretty much every single play-by-play caster is almost like a rap god, and like their word per minute is just count as ridiculous, and like you can't just jump, from one thing to another. You need to sort of be next level professional if you want to go into shoutcasting, because there's just like shoutcasting is usually my go-to example, and my favorite thing to talk about is because it's just, there's so much, like you sort of need to have, if you're a color caster, you need to have knowledge pretty much the same level as a coach, but you also need to be able to speak properly and not have any ums and ahs, and you need to know what you're talking about. But like, if you're a play-by-play caster, you need to speak clearly and loudly and fast, and to keep everyone engaged and hype. There's nothing worse than trying to listen to a shoutcaster who doesn't really know the game, or like doesn't know really the current meta or the patch, and when play-by-play casters are just go, just the thing happened and they did this and then that and then yada yada. So it's just I felt like I always wanted to be a shoutcaster, but I feel like it's not for me. Yeah, no. I'll stick with trying to helping out students reach their dreams and then their passions of becoming shoutcasters.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just the view of it. It's just paving that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for coming on, and we really appreciate it. So it just gives a different side of it, not in the pro side, but like we said, to like pave the way for those grassroots. But yeah, is there anything else you want to shout out or say?
No, I'm happy with everything we mentioned, like the shout outs. I'll always do the usual. If you want a scholarship in esports, and if you're a good player and if you're looking to study at uni, Roehampton is your choice. Join us in January or September, and you'll get to spend a year with Bradley as well. And don't forget, if you're looking for a postgrad, that's always a good opportunity to join us for a year. But yeah, thanks so much for having me, and I really wish all of the best with the University All-Stars.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. We'll be live again tomorrow at 5 p.m. with Fraser, which is a commentator within and an analyst within Siege, and a hell of a personality. So we'll see you all at 5 p.m. tomorrow.